All right, let's finish off the NFC West with the Seattle Seahawks, and we go from one quarterback spotlight to another. And this spotlight, well, the color of it is just turd brown because it's between Geno Smith
disrespect
and Drew Lock. I'm sorry, I kid. But no, Seattle's quarterback situation is the highlight of their training camp. It is one of the biggest training camp battles throughout the NFL, throughout the entire league. It comes down to Geno Smith and Drew Lock. What will that competition actually look like through training camp, AJ?
Man, and it sucks for Seattle if you ask me, because
wow, that's the first time he ever said AJ went to a white man.
Yeah.
Usually it's me.
Straight up lost for words. I'm like, wait, what?
Hey, both of them are heavyweights, though. Remember, both of them are heavyweights. So.
Somewhat heavyweight and very heavyweight.
You know, you mentioned being turd brown and whatnot, and this is another one of those teams that you would love to think that if they were in a place, they might be the guys who go after a Jimmy G, but I don't think that's the situation. I think this is you have what you have in your building, and you look forward to next year while getting everybody else set. So you're stuck now with the Geno Smith and or a Drew Lock. And the thing about Drew Lock and Geno Smith is they just haven't had a lot of production. You look at Drew Lock, he's played 24 games in the NFL, an 8-13 record in 3 years. They always talked about his strong arm, yet he's has under 200 yards a game, under 60% completion. He doesn't even have double. He has a 7-yard per target average. And for a guy who they boast about a strong arm, you think and being in Denver with guys like Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, you'd think it'd be a little higher. I've never been a huge Drew Lock fan after his first couple of seasons. It's because of the decision-making I've seen him make. Now, in Seattle, there were reports that they made sure that they got Drew Lock in that trade. It wasn't a throw-in. It wasn't a swap. Pete Carroll really thinks that him and Shane Waldron can get this guy to where they have to be, and it was a series of Denver giving up on him and him not getting a fair shake. They're in the building with him. I don't see it. I don't believe it. Now, Geno Smith has been Russell Wilson's backup for the last 3 years. And I honestly think it's his job to lose. But at the same time, I feel like they are going to try to force Drew Lock in there, and Geno Smith will take over if Drew Lock can't do the job. So Drew Lock has to come out fast and strong in training camp, or they may have no choice but to start Geno Smith. But whoever they start, they're hoping that they're just successful enough because they don't want to have to bring the other guy in, although they're ready to do that because, what else are you going to do at that point? So I think they really want Drew Lock to be the guy because they put so much in that trade with him. But Geno Smith's been there 3-4 years. He's a veteran. I think to start, in my opinion, until Drew Lock can show he's ready, he would be the guy I would start the season with unless he shows he's a turd in camp.
He's already shown he's a turd. I think you look at this. So is Drew Lock. This is why it's bad for the National Football League. But that's just a whole different conversation here. Looking at the true battle. What do you mean if Drew Lock's ready? The guy's in his third year in the NFL. He's ready to play football, right? He's got to be ready to play football. This is you can't sit back and say he's not ready because you can't groom him. He's been there he's played 2 years in the NFL, one as a backup. And this is a spot for him to potentially slide in and be a starter. I think this is his job to lose. And I don't think that there's a shot in hell that Geno Smith starts week 1.
It's his job to win. I'm sorry. Listen, I understand.
I agree with Dylan. I don't think you make that trade with Geno Smith as a backup. As old as Geno Smith is, as long as he's been in the league, you don't make that trade for Drew Lock and then say Drew Lock's got to earn that job. I think Drew Lock has the chance to lose that job in training camp, which, again, I think it has to be like this. If they're even going into the year, Drew Lock's going to start. Because the upside.
That I can agree.
You're talking about a guy, and the Drew Lock conversation is fair. I don't want to come on here and defend Drew Lock. But you're talking about a guy with NFL arm talent, can make every throw. The physical attributes are there. Everything with Drew Lock is right here. So if you get a coach that says, we can fix this, we can get him to take the checkdowns, to read a defense, to do those things, there is no debating the arm talent is far superior than Geno Smith. The difference there is what you worry about, what Geno Smith has intangibles, is the leadership that Geno Smith has. And the locker room in which Seattle has raved about, the teammates of Geno Smith love Geno Smith. But I think there's no doubt that I think Pete Carroll and that front office want Drew Lock to be the guy.
Yeah,
I think he's going to get every opportunity to lose that job.
So what I'm saying at that, and the thing, Dylan, what I mean by ready to play, of course he wants to play football. He's 3 years in, and he was a highly touted prospect. He thought he was going into the NFL to go gangbusters, and that hasn't been the case. What I mean by it's his job to win is the fact that Geno Smith has been there and understands the system that they're running. So if Drew Lock isn't ready, as in he isn't up to speed, as he hasn't got the strong concept of the offense, well, you're not going to put him out there to fail, because that's what happened in Denver. You can ruin his career. If he doesn't have the full grasp of what he needs to do by week 1, that's what I'm saying. They'll let Geno Smith go until Drew Lock is ready. Now, like Aaron said, I do believe that they're even. Yeah, you put Drew Lock in and you bring him along. But
Actually,
if he's not ready to know the offense, then he can't go.
If you start Drew Lock week 1 and you bench Drew Lock in the middle of the year, you can't go back to Drew Lock. If Geno Smith starts the year and you bench him, he's been there before. He's done it. He can come back in week 10, sit week 11, play week 13. Like, he's familiar with that role. Drew Lock is not. That's not a 3-year guy. That guy's thinking he's supposed to be the man. If he goes in and gets benched, that's going to be a problem for him. That's one thing I do agree there. I think with Geno being the veteran that he is, his mindset is, I know what I am now in the NFL. I'm a guy that I could start for a team and we can tread water and be okay, but I know I'm not going to be the franchise quarterback on an NFL team. Now, I truly believe Geno Smith knows that. So I think he's more equipped to start the season, get benched, and Drew Lock come in and struggle, and they bring Geno back in, and you're not going to have Geno being like dropping off. It's going to be the same Geno that we've always seen. So I do agree with that point that AJ made.
Good punch in the jaw, turn the man into a leader.
I like that take. You know what quarterback competition this reminds me of? A few years ago, remember AJ McCarron, Nathan Peterman? They were battling it out. Yeah, I'm serious.
I'm sorry, but both of these guys are better than both of those guys.
Yes, both of them are, but this is like their shot at starting and stuff. I know they had a Josh Allen. They didn't plan on playing him. They had the two there. And McCarron
that's fair.
Going in preseason, and then they tried Peterman, and then they're like, shit, we got to throw
Talk about brown shit stains. That's quarterbacks right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
the sad part is Nathan Peterman's still rostered. Like that's the sad part, is he still has a job, and there's guys out there that don't. Like, that's a problem.
Thanks.
AJ McCarron's doing college football and stuff.
Wait, he almost got a job yesterday. Almost got a job yesterday, but Josh Rosen beat him out.
Josh Rosen, he got beat out by Josh Rosen. AJ McCarron doesn't do college football, by the way. It's Greg McElroy you're thinking of, wrong Alabama quarterback.
Yeah.
One of those scrubs.
Yeah, that is accurate. All right, that does it though. That was good talk on the Seattle Seahawks. That's really. I'm sorry, Dylan. I don't want to end the show on shitty linebacker talk.
It's not linebacker. We switched to corner, and I got a page here, buddy.
Okay, all right. Dylan, tell us about the Seattle Seahawks cornerback battle to end the show.
I got quotes from Pete Carroll, boys. I'm ready. I'm telling you, this is legit. I love football. I'm telling you,
I love football. I love football.
More competition in the secondary, right? Now, the Seattle Seahawks, this is the second straight year they lose their starting cornerback. Oh, Lord, what do? Well, you sign a bunch of veterans, because that's exactly what they did. Farty Burns from the Bears, former Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback. He comes in there. You got Sidney Jones you made the trade with last year from Jacksonville. You bring Justin Coleman back. Then you draft a young Kobe Bryant, who he's just a vocal leader. He's humble and hungry. He shined in minicamp. They love what he's bringing to that team. You got Trey Brown, who was a beast last year before he got hurt. He could start pending his injury status, waiting on an update out of their camp. Tariq Woolen, a 5th round 2022 pick this year. He's got flashy upside. The guy can absolutely play. I mentioned second straight year, but Jones and Burns, they were the starters in minicamp. Bryant and Woolen were the backups, the two rookies. They were ready to play. Trey Brown, I expect to slide in there at some point. And what Mr. Pete Carroll said about Justin Coleman. Now, that's a veteran coming over from Miami who's also been in this Pete Carroll system. That's a very competitive spot for Justin to enter into. Don't be shocked to see him get an axe and get some papers handed to him on his way out of training camp in Seattle. But that's the look at their cornerback position there. A lot of competition, a lot of young rookies. And I think those two roles of the old scrub-up corners that have been busting the league, will drop down, and the two rookies, Kobe Bryant's going to be flashing just the way he was at Cincinnati last year.
Seattle's defense is going to be much improved this year. They're going to be one of the more underrated defenses. It's going to be predicated on their offense. Can they hold the ball and not keep them on the field a lot? The stats might not reflect it at the end of the year, but their defense is going to be really much improved over what they were last year.
From where they ended last season to what they brought in, I think they actually did a much better job than expected in their secondary. When you look at some of these guys, and yet they're unproven, but there are a lot of guys that we are high on. I love the talk about Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant. We were high on them in draft season. We were high on them in the fact that they both went to this team, because that's something they need to be along there with Condre Diggs and Jamal Adams. That secondary, I'm not saying they're great, but they're definitely going to be better than was expected going into this year.
Yep.